So we're back with 0 to 60, joined by the usual renegades, the denizens of the pits that we've dredged out just on a weekly basis. Hi Liam, hi George.
That was an
Thank.
interesting intro.
Wasn't it just you really come out with the good ones that put us in a really positive light? Thank you.
Well,
To be fair, after what me and you've been doing today, George, I don't think we deserve it.
no.
No, that is probably true. I mean,
Uh,
I could make some terrible pun about this being a real backstab from you, Brooks, and just cover an assassin, but I'm not going to go there.
that's bad for even for you. But and let's face it, it could have been worse. I said the pit's not Liverpool, so I think
Yeah,
True.
that is true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you to all the folks in Liverpool who we play with on a fairly regular basis at events these days. So, but yeah, they can deal with it. So, since we last spoke, there's been some events. Who cares? There was some drama, been covered to death. But we have
Yeah.
had a couple of new cards, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, much more exciting than anything else has been happening. To be fair, we've had a few new cards out, so it'd be good to dive
Hmm.
into those and see what we all think of them.
So, on the basis that we've had a complete new set, there's quite a lot of cards. So, rather than spending 2 hours recording a podcast, going through every single card, and not even getting to the end, what we'll probably do is we'll go through each class individually, and we'll do them each in a separate episode. So, if you listen to this one, congratulations, the fan one. We're going to talk all about assassins. Obviously, got introduced a set before, and now we've got a full package of them. So, for anyone who's watching, you get the wonderful card gallery view from Flesh and Blood website. For those on audio, you can play along at home if you want, but we're not going to have to read all the cards because they're publicly available now, which is great. So, general thoughts on we get Assassin chaps? Are we happy? Are we pleased with what we saw?
I
Go on,
am.
Liam.
I think so. I think we'll touch on Azori first when we get around to talking about the cards. But I think Azori is definitely an interesting design space that I'm looking forward to diving into a lot more. I think Arachne's probably a little bit of draft fodder, but again, we'll talk more about that in the episode.
Yeah, again, I think the same for me. Azori looks interesting. Arachne not so much, but I mean the assassin class in general looks like they've expanded on some interesting mechanics, as I guess we'll cover along with the cards. And yeah, it's I'm excited to dive into them because there's some interesting stuff in here.
Oh, I think there's some very interesting ones. So we'll start off. There is one unknown card which is under the assassin pool, but whether that's a placeholder, whether it's not, you can decide until it gets revealed. But I think the main news here was we got our new assassin hero. We got Azuri Switchblade. I have to say, as an effect, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got you
very
written all
cool.
over it, right?
Oh yeah.
Hasn't it just? This is interesting. By all means, being able to switch the card that you're attacking with is impactful. Being able to cheat out as well, 2 costs is very incredible, really.
I mean, the idea of obviously, and we'll come on to the stealth package that we've got because there's some notable cards in there. Throwing a little 0 for 3 and then flipping it for a CNC for free, effectively. Obviously, it puts the stealth card to the bottom. That's going to be real good, and there's some really good cards within the sort of draft. There's some really interesting cards which I think you're going to be quite happy flipping for, even if it's a blue into like the blue isolate, which we'll come on to. Would you block it? Nah, it's only coming for one. I'll just swap it for a 6 that's going to come and suddenly slap you hard.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is like I say, this is really interesting, and the fact that I know I've heard some people talking about obviously that you're still technically paying for the card because you've got to have a card to already put on the chain and swap it for this. But this does in fact allow you to run an incredibly red line deck
Mm.
because you don't need to pay for that first card. You don't need to pay for the second one. They can both be red. You don't need a red and a blue to pitch for your CNC. It's which is going to make it particularly in draft, right? I could see Azuri running incredibly red line when she doesn't have to worry about frostbites or anything like that.
I think even when you get to CC, I think the only reason you might be pitching is if you, because it has to be 2 cost or less. If
Mhm.
you're using the two, you pitch a blue, you've got a pummel there.
Yeah, for sure. And occasionally you'll want to swing some of the daggers that we'll be coming on to in a few minutes.
Yeah, you got those as well. So, and I like the clarification he made that obviously if you use the attack reaction to do this, banish the card face down. It doesn't say it on there, but it is an additional cost.
Hmm.
But your opponent, that's when they can choose to respond before you then flip it face up. So if that might be their only chance to react with a defense react, assuming it's a CNC. So you're going to get some really nice interplay, I think, with people who are looking at Azuri and when they're going to try and block and when they're not.
Yeah, it's a super interesting design space. I think it leans into like my kind of gameplay of always asking questions of your opponent, because it's whether or not the attack reaction's going on the stealth because you've only drew attack reacts, or whether or not a big like on hit is coming from the switch, which again you don't know how to assess until it's revealed, right? So if it's a CNC, if you relied on the Arsenal, it's no longer going to be there.
Oh
If
yeah,
there's pummels coming on, attacks in people's hands, it makes her damage output interesting because it's less, but her disruption value is fucking insane.
yeah. So I mean, whether if this ends up being a popular hero, I could see defense reactions popping up in a lot more people's decks, so that you can obviously respond to whatever she throws out at you, barring a CNC, of course. But at the moment, in a meta where we don't see that many, it would be interesting to see if people just start putting some more defense reactions in their deck, anticipating this for the first few weeks of armories.
I think I think she's going to be really good. I think there's going to be a lot of balancing as to how people are going to build her. Whether you're looking at I know some people started theorizing around a stealth contract deck
Mm-hmm.
to start using some of the silver-based equipment that you've got access to, and including one new piece, or whether you're going to just go with the big six attacks. Whether you're actually just going to run quite low to the ground and use some reactions. Again, we'll come on to all these, but I think she's going to have some really interesting play that some people aren't going to be able to deal with, depending on what hero you are.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've covered the base on her. How do you guys feel about her? Are we giving a score in this one?
Oh yeah, I'm leaning towards, because it feels like that Dory style of play, which I'm kind of a fan of. If people, for anyone that knows me, I think this is
No great surprise.
this is 4.5 Virgin on 5 stars for me. And maybe not in terms of power, because we'll have to see how it builds, but I just love the idea.
Yeah, I think 4.5 for me for flavor wise and how interesting the design space is. Power level, not quite sure yet, but I'm definitely interested to dive deeper.
Yeah, I think for me about a 4. She's definitely interesting. Whether she'll be good, like you say, who knows? But I maybe could see her play patterns becoming quite repetitive. Is the only thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I do wonder if that might be something that once I played her a couple of times, maybe I'm not quite as desperate to play her again. But she's definitely an interesting piece of design space. So I think a 4.
I mean, I can just make a new version. I'm going to swing a Dawnblade at your face. So,
Yeah, that's called
yeah.
Dorinthia.
yeah.
What
But
songs?
I'll do a new version for Azuri. So
Oh, okay, of course.
whether I'm just completely delirious while we're in an event. So we did get the other hero, which is obviously the new version of Arachne, young only. This to me feels a little bit like draft fodder. His effect, it's probably going to be fairly okay. You can go obviously stealth attack into something else because you guarantee go again, but I don't know. It doesn't make me excited.
Yeah, for me, I honestly think this is just he's the foil to Azori, right? For the draft,
Mm.
he wants the low cost attacks that she only wants certain numbers of. He wants a couple of the other bits and pieces that we'll see where I just think Azori's probably not going to be too interested in these, particularly some of the one cost and things like that. He's probably going to want a few more of the reactions than she's going to, because quite often Azori will be swapping out for things that the reactions can't be played on anyway. So I think he just wants those to try and cut the draft, obviously even within the class, kind of evenly between the two card pools. Obviously, I think this will be something we speak on a lot. Is that it seems like the draft they've tried to want the same card pool for each class to appeal to two different heroes in two different ways, and I think this is the way that they want it to happen with Arachne, is just to have that go again, go wide aspect.
I'd be interested to see how it plays out in Blitz. I think I'm probably daft enough to try it, but I'm probably wouldn't stick around it too long. I don't see it being too powerful. I think it'd be an interesting draft because I think you want to value the stealth 0 for 3s, and especially the attack reactions, which might make for an interesting win condition versus some of the heroes. But that remains to be seen whether or not it's a reliable draft hero, let's say.
Yeah, I could see him being quite good. To be fair, I may well be wrong, but also it's interesting they decided to give him 19 health instead of 20. So I wonder if he was performing incredibly well in their testing for the set. Um, just because obviously it's curious that they decided to knock him down a health in
Yeah.
draft.
Yeah.
And I think he's up there for grimmest art of the set, to be honest, as well. So I mean, not as exciting to me as Azuri is. Obviously, being young only means only really playable in Blitz and limited. We don't play a lot of Blitz. Yeah, 2.5. I'm not down on it, but I'm not high on it either. Perfectly middle of the road.
Yeah, I think for me he's probably a 2. Just, not that I don't like him, I don't think he'd be good. It's just he's not exciting. There's nothing that interesting there for him. He does what he needs to do for the draft format, I think, but that's about it.
2.5.
I mean, I do give them both a little bit more credit, having read the lore article along with Riptide, but we'll save him for another episode because he is equally as much of a creep as these two are.
Certainly.
So we get into some of like the key cards that they've released, and especially with the Majestics. So we get a reprint of Spider's Bite, but then we got a whole suite of weapons. So we got the Nerve Scalpel, we got the Orbiter Clasp, we got the Scale Peeler, and a little bit like it felt, at least to me, with the contracts and how I wanted to try and play Arachne, is have quite a big sideboard and small core, and you're really trying to tailor what you're doing to the hero you're playing against. So whether it's that you think they're going to have a heavy armor block, so someone like a Guardian if they're running shields, or if someone like Dory doesn't run attacks, so Spider's Bite was just hitting for 1. Now you just play the non-attack action 1 and the reaction 1 that punish obviously all those blocks. So I really like them. The only thing I don't like is the fact that they're Majestics.
Yeah, it feels a bit weird to have these in the Majestic slot. Obviously, like you say, I think same as you. I love the adaptability of these, and I think just the one thing we were kind of lacking. I know it was quite punishing to have the Spider's Bite to apply the double debuff to the attacks in with 2 Spider's Bites, but I really like the idea of having one of each and mixing it up for matchups as well. Knowing somebody isn't going to be running defense reactions, so many heroes just run attacks and non attack actions and non-attack actions. Don't really bother too much with attack reactions or defense reactions. So for that, just Spider's Bite Orbiter Classed. It's going to get you a lot of work. So I don't know. I think being able to mix and match these is going to be impactful.
I think especially late game, like you play this, if you're attacking with the Scale Peeler when people have saved their equipment, and the fact it's also got piercing anyway, especially in being able to sort of then force them to block with cards, as some of the things we'll see later on, it can be really impactful.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, if you hit with 2 of these, and they've still got their armor block, or even if you just had 2 of these out all game and you've been consistently swinging with them, are they ever going to get to use their armor? If you've just got these out and they've got a whole fridge that all blocks 2, but every time you've started, you've just gone scale peeler, their armor's going to sit there largely unused for large portions of the game.
Yeah, I really like the versatility of these daggers. I think it does upset me that they are at M rarity. I kind of get why. I think because if popping up everywhere in a draft would be a bit interesting, but because the M's, it makes me a little bit down on them because they're all the same. They just have a slightly different tech, right? I do love the versatility of them.
Mm.
So I think if they weren't M's, I'd probably give them a 4, but because they're M's, I have to give them a 3.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I do worry that unfortunately we might be opening our packs and see these in your M slot, and I'm going to just feel a little disappointed. I can see why they couldn't make them tokens by all means, but maybe there's a better answer than making them all Majestic, particularly given that you've got both the normal and reversed in the set, which is an interesting choice because it takes up a lot of spots.
Yeah, I mean,
But no,
it feels like it should have been in the rare slot to me.
Yeah, I could have seen that. Whether or not you could have had it or whether it even does appear in a separate spot in the pack, I don't know. Where these all show up within the packs, but it would be good if they're not taking up the Majestic spot, or if they're just purely just in an equipment only slot or something like that. But I have a horrible feeling, and sadly, this will show up in place of your Majestic that you might be hoping to get.
Yeah, especially when we've seen some of the pull rates being rather low, but I think I'm a
Mhm.
little bit higher than you there, Liam. I think 3.5 because I think I'm going to play quite a lot of assassin. I think having that versatility, especially once I've actually got them all, I think they'll definitely see play in my Azuri and my Arachne lists.
Yeah, I think I'm on a 3 myself. They would be a bit higher if maybe if they went in the majestic spot, but I like them a lot.
And then we got the L, so only one pure assassin L, which is the Redback Shroud. I'm kind of mixed on this. Obviously, it kind of feeds into the old Dynasty style with, I say old Dynasty style, it's like it's ages ago. You know, that Arachne style of contracts and trying to gain silver, which obviously you can't do in this set. There's no cards which generate silver. Um, and are you going to put, obviously you get the recurring block, because it's got that whole the whole discard buyback. But are you ever going to run this over Tunic? Because it
Yeah,
feels a little bit more narrow.
it does seem like a little bit of a strange one not having this in Dynasty where you had the silver generation, the contracts. But in limited, this is literally just a one block battle worm with a one you get one cheaper or I think pretty much free attack reaction in the set. And I can't remember if we've got anything that costs two in the
No, I think
attack
they're all
reactions
one.
in this set. Yeah, exactly. So you get one free attack reaction and a one block, which is impact. It could be the difference to winning a game, but obviously for a legendary, it's not that great if you never get to recur it. Um, so, like you say, in constructed particularly, I think I'd lean to more towards Tunic, but I haven't had the opportunity to try it yet, so it hasn't been in my Talishard testing with the new cards.
I love the design space of this again. I really, really like this card. It's just I don't maybe this we'll see the power of this card in future sets. Maybe
Mm.
LSS has already designed something that we don't know about. But I think when we had a discussion about it not long ago, it was George, you were making the point of Arachne doesn't want to play it because spreading plague is the only costed like attack reaction. So like obviously he wants to play the cut to the chase, which is free. The shreds are free.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we'll come on to spreading plague in a minute, but it's just I don't know. It's just I don't think it's good enough. I think Zori might play it if she's playing pummels and razor reflexes, but then again she's short on silver generation, so I think
Yeah,
this is lands such a purgatory space where both assassins don't really want to run it.
yeah,
Okay.
it does really feel like it's in the middle ground, right? Like you say, it's Arachne doesn't use it. Zori can't generate the silver, so where'd you land? Maybe someone can crack an Azori build with lots of contracts, but you got to really balance that with the stealth, right? Because I mean, obviously, her ability doesn't work on contract cards.
Yeah, it feels like the sort of thing that if you're trying to build both, you're gonna. But we said this about well, people said it about Starvo, and you wouldn't be able to make that consistent, and well, we all know how that turned out. Also, good word from Big Source there on Purgatory. You know, giving you credit. Don't look so sad.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty middle of the road for me too. I think as well. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I think if this was remotely viable for Azuri right now, I'd be wanting to give this a 4.5 or a 4, just because I love the design space. I always love the last piece of kit we got for the Dynasty for Assassin with the buyback mechanic, but I just don't think this one's quite there yet.
No, I think a 3.5 seems fair. And to be fair, if you pull this and you get the extended art cold foil, because we obviously get the three rarities of rainbow foil, cold foil, and extended art cold foil, it real pretty.
Yeah, I think then I'd be giving it much more of a
Yeah,
4.55 if
yeah,
I pull that, because that's a very pretty card.
yeah. So let's just round out the M's. We get infiltrate, and then we get shakedown and spreading plague. I know we've kind of already covered spreading plague just in terms of talk about others being costed, but my god, do I think that card is worth it.
I think first though, got to let Liam talk a little bit about infiltrate. I know one man is particularly high on this card. I know he likes this one.
Yeah,
I
he's a bit
fucking
of a
love
fan, isn't
Infiltrate. It's such a cock card, right? It's just like the dream of spiking your opponent's win conditions off the top and then playing them yourself. I'll go into the example I always want to use is just the Channel Mount Heroic versus Briar. It's just like infiltrate, it hits, will spike off the channel. Your arse on another stealth card, and then you draw a couple of blues, and you play their channel, and then you get to do some dumb shit. I fucking love this card. I really do.
Yeah,
This is like a 4.5 for me.
I've
It's
already
so
heard
good.
a story of someone infiltrating and off the top getting their opponents infiltrate in a mirror.
Oh, that's so good.
That's fun. I like that.
Just absolute, so rude. And props
I
to
think,
Talishar
yeah.
for coding everything so quickly already.
They have done a fantastic job. I was going to say, I think one thing to be relevant for, particularly with obviously pre-release coming up, playing this in a limited environment, I do believe that arrows won't be playable if you hit those because you don't still control a bow. So that is one limitation of infiltrate.
This is true.
Oh, boo!
So,
I can't
you
run
can't.
up to you and stab you with that arrow.
You cannot do that anymore. Now you've been playing as Alia Liam. Sort it out.
Yeah,
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in the Ranger episode.
Well, no, I mean, but you can have the choice though, because it's either do you leave the infiltrate there if they don't block, or do you flash in the shakedown?
Yeah, and also there's no downside to not playing the card you get, right? If it's not as good as the option you've got in your hand for next turn, leave it there.
They still stay Spanish, right?
Yeah, and your opponent still can't play it. So like Liam was saying before, if you hit this and you get your opponent's win condition, great.
Get that Luminar Ascension off of Bolton.
He would be incredibly sad. It'll also be funny when you spiders bite more than once. I presume that would work. I don't know. I haven't looked at the card.
I'd have to look at that one. Imagine spiders biting and gaining health. Oh,
well, you won't gain
Jesus.
any health. You won't hit a light. I'd be shocked if you hit a light card on the top. If you do that,
true.
you are cheating.
True.
Oh dear. But yeah, but the choice you got is you hit with infiltrate or you play the shakedown, and I love shakedown. They've done it a little bit in this set of kind of talking about particular colours of cards, because we get in some of the other. I think Ranger have got a little bit of a set of this as well. Of if you choose a red, if you choose a yellow, you choose a blue. I love that. I love the idea, and you kind of I think it rewards you for knowing what your opponent's kind of doing. Obviously not as good as limited, but.
Yeah, for sure. This really rewards you for knowing what your opponent values. I mean, even in limited though, right? If you could just take someone's one red card they've got in their hand, that's probably going to really mess up their turn. I mean, this is a non-hit effect and a half.
Especially
I'm a big fan.
Especially if it's been flashed in for free and they've gone, oh, I've not blocked. I've not got any defense reactions. I'm in danger.
I've got to say, a zero for 3, a 0 for 6. Sorry, is quite a good rate when with an on-hit. So I know obviously you got to have the other card, but still, that's pretty frightening.
I fucking love Shakedown. What a card this is. What a card.
And the art's gruesome as well.
The art's so good. I think the flavour's so good. And it really rewards you knowing and understanding your opponent's deck.
The real question is though, Brooks, how long before you pummel one of these?
Minutes into a CC game.
Can confirm I've already done it.
I bet that felt disgusting.
It was fucking brutal.
Particularly, I guess, because you order the triggers, right? So what, you pummel them first, make them choose their own discard, and then look at their hand and get rid of the one you want to.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. But there are other reactions available, and the last M is Spreading Plague, which, especially in the late game, considering Azuri's pattern in terms of you can flash, and if they overblock, my god, does this punish them hard. Because no one wants multiple blood rot.
Yeah, this is a hell of a card. I don't know. I know some people have been slightly lower on this. I remember looking at this and saying, this looks pretty nuts to me. Punishing your opponent for blocking. They've already committed cards out of their hand. And then you then tax what is remaining of their hand. So either they're not hitting you or they're taking damage. Either way, you're winning that exchange. I like this a lot. I could probably see Arachne playing this as well. Like, being a fatigue deck particularly. In kind of the standard, normal, regular Arachne, this probably could be a card that he could like a lot from this set, I'd have thought.
Like I say, I think with the play pattern, and there's nothing, maybe not in limited, because obviously being a Majestic, you're probably not going to pull multiple. If they block with 2 cards, and you play Spreading Plague, that's 4 blood rot. They're taking 8. Assuming they've not, if they've got 2 blues in hand, they're still taking 4, and it's their entire turn and tempo gone.
Yeah, exactly. Because considering to get that, they've already got to block with 2 cards. Like say, even if they have 2 blues left, they're still taking damage. And they're definitely not hitting you back if they want to try and prevent some of it. So that's a pretty good rate for a card that costs 1, that blocks 3, and is yellow. So I mean, I think I think it's a hell of an M.
I think this card is an absolute truck. It is. I like me and you, George, were on the same page. We were like, this card's nuts. And then obviously a lot of people talk like down talking this card. I don't understand why. It pitches for yellow, so it's not exactly the worst pitch in the world. It only costs 1. It blocks 3. It punishes your opponent for blocking cards on hits they want to block, so you still get your value out of it. And this card is actually nuts turn 0 when your opponent's like, I don't want to take damage.
Oh
So
god,
you like
yeah.
send this on hit, they're like block 3 cards, and you go spreading plague. So you've got like 6 damage just sat there next to it. It's fucking stupid. This card's so good.
I love it.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, this thing's absolutely great. I've got to be giving it a 4 myself. Like this, I don't know. It just seems spectacular. I don't see a great deal of downside. I understand, I guess, why people thought it might not be so great, just because we're in a bit of a no block meta at the moment, or a very limited blocking, and so maybe this doesn't seem good. But particularly when you come in with the on hits like shakedown, this off a blue, even on a shakedown, even if you're just throwing it normally, feels pretty damn good. Your opponent's going to want to block that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I might mark this card down for is the art, because it's fucking
That's
good.
amazing, man.
No, mate, it makes me feel sick.
Yeah, that's how good the art is.
I
To
know,
be fair,
it's good,
that is what
but in
they're
a bad
aiming
way.
for.
Yeah,
It's
It's
Like
so-
if that's what they've achieved with you, then they've fucking nailed it.
exactly. It's grim. I love it. It gets a 5 from me because this has got the potential to end games, and like I say, I don't see why Assassins wouldn't run this. Yeah.
Oh, so
Nothing.
we didn't rate infiltrate and shakedown. So we'll go infiltrate first. Out of 5.
Uh, 4.
3.5.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I fucking love this card.
I knew you
Shakedown.
would. 4.
4.
4.5. Fucking love this card. Spreading plague. You gave it a 5, Brooks?
I did.
George?
I think I gave it a 4 a minute ago, and I think I want to stay with that.
I'll stay on fucking 4.5. This card's good. I love it.
It's very
He
good.
he loves
very
it.
good.
Yeah, I think that as a package of infiltrate, then play shakedown, and if they got some blocks, then you spread him. Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Mm.
So obviously, to make all this work, we've got the whole sort of stealth package available. Rather than going through all of them, they're all zeros. Come in for 3, block 3 at red. All come in a rainbow. All have some sort of effect. I think, no, we've talked about this before, George. The main one really is isolate.
Yeah, I
That
think
I
that's
think
the
is-
standout one for me, at least. Just for its combo with Azuri's ability.
Yeah, like limiting to block from one card and then flashing in the 2 as a reaction. It's real good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just don't see any downside to this card. Like you say, the fact that it's free, it activates Azuri's ability, it provides dominate, which essentially becomes overpower once you swap it out in the reactions phase, because obviously the dominate goes away. But having overpower on some of these incredible on hits is amazing for basically no resource. And like I say, the fact that it then blocks 3 just means that I'd happily run the reds and the blues of these without even thinking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think isolate's definitely the standout for me. Going into what George said, I think basically you're just limiting how much your opponent can block on the stealth attack, going into the switch into whatever bullshit on hit you want to present your opponent with is super valuable. I think some of the on hit into the diseases are still pretty good, pretty good to explore. Like infect is still a pretty good one to run. I think blood drop pox is probably one of my favorite mechanics coming out of this set.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I like that one a lot. Particularly, that's the sort of one you want to be looking to Razor's Edge, right? I feel like that's when you come in with this, your opponent's expected to be swapped out for some obnoxious on hit. They might, and you just Razor's Edge on top it instead. They go, okay, fine. You know what? You're gonna shake down. I don't want to give you 2 cards. Have 1 card, so you just come in with this. Don't have you shake down, but just Razor's Edge it twice or something, and just hit them some damage. Give them a blood pox and go into the next turn. which I think is absolutely fine. So I think it's the best. And like you say, I think just blood rot pox has been the most universally useful token for me. Inertia's okay, frailty's got its time, but blood rot pox I'm never sad to give my opponent.
No, I did see some horrible clips of some dirty bugger playing Azalea and giving people 3 blood rot pox off one hit, and obviously you can do stuff like that in this. You can have access to stuff like Death Touch, which I think we touched on in a previous episode. You've got the Spike card, so you got the Spike with Blood Rot, Inertia, Frailty, and I think the fact you can, if you're going to be trying to block these, if you're going to try and block these and think about the reaction there, again, that's where because obviously the spikes are one cost, that's where maybe the Shroud comes in as well. Yeah, I just think generally I like the package. It's not overpowered, but it enables Azuri to do Azuri things, which is all I ever want.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I must admit, I think the ability to cheaply add more blood rot onto these as well with the spike is very nice. Like you say, after testing out some of it, particularly with Azalea more than anything else, but still the same applies. I think when you start giving multiple blood rot pox, that's when it gets really obnoxious.
Yeah, we'll also say, because obviously we get the Armory promos this month, and it is the spike cards. The extended art shiny Blood Rot Pox is gorgeous. Grim, but gorgeous. So
Yeah, that artwork is somewhat different.
yeah,
So how do you guys feel about all of these low cost stealth cards? Then I think for me, I actually think I think Isolate is probably like a 3.5 for me. It's really good at what it does. Like I say, great all round card. I think the rest are probably about a 2.5. I don't think there's any other real standouts for me outside of Isolate.
I think I'd give Isolate. I think you're right, maybe 3.5. I think Infect to get a 3 for me. I think it
Yeah,
is
that's
a
fair.
very relevant on hit. The rest get a 2.5 because they are needed to be enablers without being particularly exciting. Because when you flash them away, obviously they lose their effect of whatever it is that was on the board. So
I think this is going to be a 0 to 60 first, and I'll actually agree with everything that Brooke said.
I
holy
mean, I
shit,
think I'm not sure that's a 0 to 60 first. I'm pretty
it's
sure
our
that's
life.
just a first,
Yeah,
first in life in general.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I agree. I think Isolate is the standout, and it should be higher than the rest. And I think, like I said before about the blood rot boxes, I think is a really powerful effect. So I think Infects is slightly better than the rest of them, and then the rest going together.
Also,
For sure.
again, I know I talk about the art a lot. The fact this guy is literally just pouring a disease on some other poor fella's head while he's tied up. I don't know what he did to deserve it, but my God, it must have been bad.
Yeah, to be fair, again, to slightly deviate into another class, I think we get to see what happens to him later in the Ranger class.
Yes,
So,
yes, I think we
but
do.
yeah, there's some grim artwork all around.
Yeah, the pits does not seem like a happy place to live. And I think the only other card really we've not mentioned, which is kind of the common payoff, I think, for Azuri, is the sneak attack. It doesn't, it doesn't excite me. Flashing in a 7 for 0, because obviously you activate the effect by having Azuri'd in a red is alright. But
I'm gonna I'm gonna go first there, George, if you don't mind.
oh,
Yeah, go for it.
I think you're underselling this card after
I
I
agree.
was playing with it today. In some games on there's some really interesting like interactions. I think the 0 for 7 line is also the main attraction, right? You flash it in for another 7 damage. But I think what's also good about this card, it's also pummelable, so you can give it an on hit. So 11 discard a card is also extremely good. But another interaction I also found before was I started the chain with a sneak attack, which cost me 2, and it came with 3. My opponent only blocked 3. It wasn't really an opponent run defense reactions, so I cracked the Black Tech Whisperers, which then pumped it to 7, and because it went over, he guaranteed the on hit to carry on the chain link.
Yeah, that's really nice. I must
ooh,
say for some CC,
So you
cracking the
can
black text.
it's like the Anathos interaction, right? So when you hammer for 4, then you pummel, but then because you pitch the other 3 cost card, it buffs and then buffs again.
ooh,
So this sneak attack kind of works the same way.
I've not even thought
Yeah,
about that. That is a sneak attack. I like
I
it.
tell you what, a pummeling off a tunic on this is going to be absolutely disgusting when it goes from 3 to 11. It's just so disgusting. That is
Oh,
nasty. You're a rude man.
do you know what? I think I did undersell it because I hadn't even thought about that and playing it naturally. I just assumed I was thinking about with Azuri and the more limited, but yeah, that's gross. Don't do that to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, I know you particularly, Brooks, were not so excited about this one in particular, but I must admit, I agree with him. I think it's very good. It's an absolute staple. And I tell you what, if I'm even remotely leaning towards Azori in limited, this in red, I'm all over it. I'm picking these every chance I get.
See, this is all the fun stuff I miss out on by actually working in a day. I know it's rare, but I miss out
Just
on all
not
the
to
fun stuff you lot
clarify,
working out.
I'm 100% working in the day.
No comment.
Well, you're always working when you're playing Fab. That is your job.
That is true. You are, yeah.
I wish.
So, obviously, Assassin's got access to other cards, but we'll cover those, the sort of the hybrid cards when we come on to the generics because they kind of fit cross-class. But there's some decent little sneaky things in there, especially the codices, because you start getting into the more Blood Rot Pox style things as well. What? We've not really rated sneak attack, but I think you've obviously seemed pretty high on it then, Mr. Holden.
I'd slap a 4 on this all day.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that one as well. Like I say, I think this is an absolute staple for Azuri. It's gonna be good in other decks where you're just when you're running a reaction, this thing is gonna have a lot of threat.
So, yeah,
So I like it.
I was going to go 3, but what you just mentioned around Black Tex has definitely pumped it to a 4 for me. So I'm actually going to agree with you. You have actually managed to convince me of something.
I'll just literally I'll say about this one is I think there's a very good reason why it's the only card in Assassin that blocks 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's nuts, and if it blocked 3, it would be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's the only assassin card that's going to block 2, like pure assassin anyway. Because obviously,
yes, any pure assassin.
it gets dragged. Always, assassin cards will always be dragged down by rangers and ninjas when it becomes to hybrid because they have to block 2 and blade break and generally make them slightly worse. But generally speaking, and looking at the class, I know people were sort of talking about whether we're going to get a continuation of what we saw in Dynasty, more contract style. I kind of like that it's different. Shroud doesn't really fit for me in this. It feels like it should have been a Dynasty card, but then you probably can't give two of the L's to a brand new class, which is only in one set. So, but I really like what they've done. I love the idea behind Azuri. I can see how the different cards will play into her ability and her play patterns. Arachne seems fine. I love the daggers. I think in limited, it's going to be fun to play. You're going to see some shenanigans, which people might not like. And I think in CC, I really want to see the different type of builds that people come out with.
Yeah, I think overall, Assassins. Obviously, I played a lot of Arachne before Outsiders was shown. It's definitely a class that I've really enjoyed. I think Arachne got probably use a few of these cards, especially the Spreading Plague. So I think you'll enjoy that in CC, and maybe he can mix up his daggers. I think Azori is going to be a really interesting design space to look into. Arachne Solitary Confinement again. I'll probably play that in Blitz for once, and then just decide to move on with my life. But I actually think I'm really excited for a supplementary set because I think being able to flesh out Arachne's contract side and maybe Azori's stealth side will be a really interesting set to have a look into. And obviously, any 2-cost attack now that gets printed after this, Azori's going to have our eyes all over it.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
we've already seen some of the generics, and there ain't no way you're not taking these if you can.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these, like you say. That I think it's going to limit the design space somewhat for 2-cost generic attacks that you're going to print. The more that you print, particularly if they interact with defense reactions, are going to make it pretty rude if with Azuri. But yeah, there's a lot in this set. I think it's exciting. Like I say, I think I agree with you, Liam. I think Spreading Plague and the daggers are probably the things I can see Arachne really appreciating out of this set. Who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe there's something with sneak attack that he could be trying to run. Maybe you get your dream of Pommel or Acne Brooks.
I mean, Pommel Arachne was fun, and if you get more tools that enable shenanigans like that, I think you're going to be all over it. Like I say, suddenly going from 3 to 11 with Go again. You can still use the Mask of Perdition, I think, can't you, to banish a card as well. So you're still feeding into that.
I mean, that would also just trigger it, right? That would,
Well,
if at worst, you could just pump it to 7 with the mask.
Exactly. I think there's going to be a couple of cards, but I think this is aimed at fleshing out Azuri more so than the others. So, I mean, overall, I love the flavor of Assassin. If you get the chance to read the lore article about the spiders that they posted fairly recently as well. Obviously, there's a little bit about Riptide in there, but we'll cover that big ocean boy later. The assassins are so cool. The infighting between the different assassin groups and just quite how brutal they are. I think from a lore perspective, it's an easy 5 for me. I think as a class within Outsiders, I think generally speaking, I'd be quite happy saying these are a 4.5 star.
Very nice. How do you feel about the rating wise assassin, Liam?
I think I'd stick a 4.5 for me. I love the flavor. I love the art as much as it's pretty grotesque. But I kind of like the whole dark grotesque art. It makes it really. I don't know. It just adds to it, right? So I think 4.5 for me. I'm looking forward to. I think I'm really looking forward to drafting this set. Sealed. I'm not. Everyone knows I'm not a massive fan of sealed, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands dirty with it. But draft, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for the draft as well. I think for me, for the assassin class in here, I think I'm going a little bit lower than you guys. Although I think there's some good stuff, I think it's a little bit of a shame it doesn't combo a little bit better with Arachne, because he maybe could have done with a little bit more support. The hero is pretty good, but anyway, beside the point. I think I'm thinking about a 3.5, just because also I'm not sure if I'll enjoy Izori that much long term. I could see it becoming a little repetitive. But I guess to be fair, until we've really played, who knows? So a 3.5, but it may go up if I kind of really enjoy it after playing Unlimited a couple of times.
I mean, that's the thing, we're caveating all this with we haven't actually played. I mean, you boys have played a little bit more than I have, but I think once you actually start feeling the play patterns, actually cracking the cards, seeing what you can do with these, I'm really excited for it. So, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to add before we close off on this? Actually, fairly short episode for us.
Yeah, well, it's like a mini series, right? So.
Yeah, we ended up rattling through those reasonably quickly, to be fair. But I think we've covered all the points we wanted to cover on them. I don't think there's too much more from myself apart from just to reiterate again, I'm quite excited to get my hands on these new cards and give them a go.
Cool. Right. Well, for everyone watching and listening at home, thank you very much. Hopefully you'll catch the rest of our series, whether it's Ninja, Ranger, or Hybrid, or all of them if you can actually stomach listening to us and our shaky takes. But Liam, George, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.